Welcome back to The Heat. We're talking about Scotland's independence referendum. Joining me now from Glasgow is John Struthers. He is a professor of economics at the University of the West of Scotland. He is opposed to Scottish independence. Welcome to the show, sir. Now, tell me, firstly, why are you opposing independence for Scotland?
Well, firstly, I'm opposed to independence for Scotland for a variety of economic reasons, but it's not just for economic reasons. I'm opposed to independence because I think the United Kingdom is a successful entity. It has been around for 300 years, so why break up something that has been a proven success?
We just heard from the well-known Scottish actor Brian Cox, in which he said that Scotland has not been well represented in the Union, that it's largely been not ignored, but he says there's been an underclass there that's been underrepresented. Well, what do you say to that?
Well, I don't know where he gets that attitude from. I believe that Scotland is well represented. We have more than 50 MPs in Westminster. We have a parliament in Scotland with over 120 MSPs, as we call them. We have local councils here as well. I know that people who are proposing independence refer to something called a democratic deficit. There's no democratic deficit. If anything, there could be a democratic surplus. So I don't subscribe to that view.
What about those who say, those in the yes camp, who say that Scotland should have more say in its economic future?
Well, I sympathise with that view as an economist myself. Indeed, I would say that what's being offered currently by the three Westminster parties, which will indeed give Scotland more economic power over raising tax revenues, income tax and various other taxes, is probably more than they would have under independence, the form of independence that they are proposing, where they want to keep the pound, where monetary policy would still be determined in London, and the offer that's on the table, if you like, is actually more palatable than independence would be.
It also boils down to some very specific issues. We've got media reports from Britain which say that there are questions over the National Health Service. This is the health service for the entire country, that Westminster, or rather the English, want to dismantle that welfare state, and that's not acceptable to the Scottish.
Well, you see, this is another myth that those who propose independence have been putting out. The National Health Service is a publicly provided health service, both in England and in Scotland. What the proponents for independence are saying is that there are trends within the English system or the UK system to introduce more of a private market, which is true to some extent, but it's very, very small percentage of the total budget for the nationalised health service. And indeed, in any case, the budget for health is devolved under the system that we already have in Scotland. So the Scottish Parliament, based in Edinburgh, has full control over health expenditure and can prevent any privatisation that may come around, little though that may be.
Okay, well, it's the point that you make there, which was addressed by Alex Salmond, who is Scotland's First Minister, someone who does want Scotland to have its own independence, and he says we need to have our own control over taxation and spending.
Well, that's what an independent country would have, but the particular variety of independence that's being proposed by the SNP, by Mr. Alex Salmond's party, where we would keep the pound, would constrain our ability to spend the resources that we have. It would also constrain our ability to vary tax, because, and this is where it gets a little technical, the relationship between monetary policy and fiscal policy is a very close one. And so if you hand over the control of monetary policy, which is interest rates, to London, which is what's being proposed, then indeed that constrains your fiscal policy even more. It's an approach to economic policy that frankly is risible.
Professor Struthers, we know where you stand on this referendum, but would you like to hazard a guess on where this is all going to turn out? I mean, the polls are looking very close right now.
Yeah, the polls are extremely close. The no side are slightly ahead in the majority of the polls, around about 52 to 48. The big unknown is the number of people who will vote on Thursday. We do know that there's going to be a very big turnout, and we also know that there's quite a large number of people who will vote in this referendum who don't normally vote in elections. And these particular voters, we think, on balance, will favour independence because they tend to be from poorer backgrounds, less well-off individuals who have been persuaded, misguidedly persuaded, in my opinion, by the presentation that has been put out by the SNP, by the independence movement. So that's why the polls are very, very close, because of this quite substantial number of people who would not normally vote, but this time they are going to vote. So that creates a lot of uncertainty.
Professor John Struthers, thanks for being with us, sir.